Hi, everybody. This is Bart Jaworski, CEO and co-founder of Group 11 Resources. I'm a geologist and ex-mining analyst with 24 years experience in the industry. And Group 11 is exploring for zinc in the Republic of Ireland. I'm just going to skip over some of these initial slides and cut to the chase to our most significant progress since inception, and that is Carrickittle. Carrickittle, in last July, we intersected 10 meters of 20% zinc and lead with 40 grams silver. This is an old prospect from the 60s, but what we did is we turned the rigs around opposite to the old timers, and lo and behold, we got some really interesting mineralization. We followed up later that year in December, about 50 meters away, we got 7 meters of 30% with 100 grams silver. Also a very impressive hole with some appreciable copper this time around. And subsequent to that, throughout most of this year, we worked our way towards the southwest, about 400 meters from this area, Zone 1. And just a couple of weeks ago, we announced this hole, hole 22, which managed to find more massive sulfides, albeit over narrower widths, but we got a nice 9-meter mineralized zone hosting 7 narrower, massive, and semi-massive sulfide intervals, as you can see here on the pictures, up to 32% zinc and lead. And 30 grams silver times 2 or 3 times over that 9-meter interval, as you can see here in the pictures. So some very nice grades. Overall, that 9 meters, the best part of that 9 meters was 2.5 meters of 8% zinc and lead with 8 grams silver. So it's a very interesting prospect for us, and it's quickly evolving. So let's get into it. I'll show you exactly where it is on the next slide here. So where exactly is Carrickittle? It's right in the middle of this 25-kilometer long Pallas Green corridor. You can see my cursor. The Pallas Green corridor starts off with the Pallas Green deposit here on the very north side, owned by Glencore. This is one of the largest undeveloped zinc deposits in the world. It's 45 million tons of 8% zinc and lead. And right beside it is our Stonepark project, which is 5 million tons of 11%. Which is the next slide. I'll get into that a little bit further. We have this oval-shaped Limerick volcanic complex, about 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers across. It's quite a large body. And on the other side of that is where Carrickittle is located. So basically the pictures I showed you are all from here, Carrickittle. 10 kilometers downtrend from that is Ballywire, which we've also had some recent, very interesting success. We stepped out 200 meters from a few historic holes that had some nice smoke in it. And we hit some fire, essentially 3 meters at 12% interval. I'll get into that a little bit later on. And then another few kilometers down the trend is Denison, which is a historic estimate of copper and silver, where we also just a few weeks back announced our first hole actually ever drilling there. We got 116 meters of 0.54 copper equivalent. So it's quite a belt. We're very excited by it. And just to back up a little bit, the red shaded area here is PG West. That's 100% owned by Group 11. The blue area here is Glencore. The area in between is our Stonepark joint venture with Arco Resources. And that's where the most advanced part of that property is the Stonepark resource itself. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't mention South 32 is located here where my cursor is, right underneath the Stonepark label. Is where South 32 is. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that camp as well. Now, just to focus on Stonepark, 5 million tons of 11%, as you can see here, denoted by these green patches. And the main point of this actually slide is just to showcase that we do have a valuation anchor in the company, but also to contrast this versus Pallas Green. So Stonepark is shallower and higher grade than our next door neighbor. The bulk of this resource is housed in Stonepark North, which is 4 million tons of 12%, only about 250 meters deep. The deepest part of this deposit is about 450 meters down at Stonepark, relative to 1,300 meters all the way up to 300 meters at Pallas Green. And obviously the average grade at Pallas Green is 8%. This is about 11 to 12%, depending on where you look at it. So it is quite an interesting strategic asset for us. And the other main thrust of this slide is the pink versus the green. The pink areas denote areas where historic drilling has intersected mineralization. And this is where we think we can springboard into further resource expansion in future. One great example of that is this hole here in the middle of nowhere, drilled 500 500-meter blocks all around, empty, no drilling, and yet it hit a meter of 11%. So that's for us to follow up, low-hanging fruit for us. So the question is, can we find another 5 million tons here down the line? I personally think we have a good shot at it. Obviously, it's a forward-looking statement, but there's a lot of pink here versus the green. I hope you agree with that. So it's quite a compelling resource for us and an evaluation anchor. Now, getting back to Carrickittle, there's 4 main zones. The pictures I showed at the very top of the slides are from Zone 1 and Zone 4. And effectively, we drilled 1,800 meters over the last year or so, defining zones 1 and 2. Initially, they were blobs of mineralization. We didn't really know where they sat, which way they were oriented, how they were shaped, were they continuous, for example. So we defined this with very high precision, and that gave us a very clear vector of where to follow it, i.e. to the northwest. And we then followed up with a ground mag survey over this entire area that you can see here on the map. And that further corroborated that northwest trend, and showing these magnetic linears, these dark black lines and dark gray lines are all defined by magnetics, which I'll just show you here. This is the underlying magnetic map. So you can see those northwest linears are indeed real, and they sync up very nicely with the drill-defined mineralization as we see it. Zone 4 obviously being here. And if you zoom in on zones 1 through 4, this is what it looks like. So zone 1 and 2 dominated by massive sulfides. Zone 2 is lower grade vein style mineralization, also trending in the same direction, however. Zone 3 also, it looks like it's weaker, and then it starts to be interesting again at zone 4 with wide lower grade intervals as well as some high grade massive sulfide as I showed you at the very top of the slide, and that's located right here. So quite a dynamic area, and we're currently drilling towards the northwest along that corridor. So stay tuned. That's where the bulk of the drilling is in Q4 for the company. Now, I mentioned Ballywire, and Ballywire is a very exciting prospect up there with Carrickittle, no doubt. And the reason is, just this back to the regional map here, I've overlaid the Rathdowney Trend, which hosts the Lachine and Galmoy deposits just off the map here. So it's a very important trend within Ireland, and it intersects the Pallas Green corridor right where Ballywire is. So that's its regional significance. And if you zoom in, plan view, bird's eye view, what we did is recently drilled this hole denoted here in the red. And what we did basically is we saw that there was several holes drilled here in the past that got good smoke, if you will. And we stepped out 200 meters to the north. It doesn't look like much on this map, but believe me, that's a 200-meter step out. And we finally hit some fire. So we hit something that looks like it could be economic, 3.3 meters at 12% economic looking intercept there. And the other thing to note is these holes that were drilled historically off to the side here, each of them encountered trouble and never hit the target horizon. So the target horizon remains untested in this entire area, which means that the closest holes that actually drilled the target horizon are these two guys here. And this hole from 97 actually intersected. We went through all the logs, and to our surprise, this was quite a strong hole, 2.5 meters of 6% with a half meter of 20%, which sounds a lot like our 0.4 meter or 0.2 of 25% here. So clearly there's been absolutely no drilling all around. It's wide open. It's regionally in a very good spot. And this hole basically demonstrates that we can get some fire here, some really good intersections. And this is an area, one to watch. We'll be talking about this a lot in the near future for the company. I'm just going to show you a quick cross section of what that looks like as well. So this is our step out hole, 200 meters. We now have 900 meters of mineralization. I would characterize these 3 holes as smoke. We're getting into the fire here, but the nice thing is we're getting into the shallower part of the system, and obviously going into the page and out of the page, as well as up dip, is where the real exploration upside is for us. So stay tuned for this one. Now, enough about the rocks. I'll touch on very briefly on the team. There's 5 directors on the board. Dan McInnes from Zinc-Silver, myself, Brennan Cahill from Exelon, Alessandro Batelli from Lundin, and a recent addition, recently appointed by Glencore, is Ken Klassen. On the management side, Sean Heinrichs in Vancouver is our CFO. David Furlong and Mark Goldstock and myself are here in Ireland, and David and Mark run the technical side of the day-to-day technical side of the company. terms of capital structure, Glencore owns 26%. Michael Gentile owns 17%, and you've seen a number of other companies. The insiders, myself included, own 5.6% of the company. So your shareholders, along with everybody else. We have 137 million shares outstanding and $1.8 million Canadian in cash as of the end of June. And lastly, I'll just leave you on this slide. Investment highlights. We don't have much time to talk about the zinc market, but just be aware of the zinc battery storage, grid storage technology out there, and obviously the infrastructure spending in the US can't hurt. Ireland has got a long history of modern exploration and mining for zinc and lead, so it's a safe mining-friendly jurisdiction. We have a strong team. We are focused on drilling. We have a dominant land position in the Limerick Basin, which is a very hot camp, and 2 zinc deposits, one of which I didn't talk about yet, but it's Ballywire. It's 5 million tons of 9%. Obviously, we have recently discovered high grade, significant shareholders. We are aligned with the shareholders, being shareholders ourselves. And we have a very busy upcoming drill program in Q4 on this Northwest extension. So thanks very much. I look forward to meeting with you, and see you then.